Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. It has been some time ago I actually picked up this plug-and-play arcade solution. I've reviewed a lot of them, but this thing is something completely different that makes me really exciting. So this is the Dragonfly arcade game box, and this is a device that actually can replace a full arcade machine because it utilizes the same equipment but also the same software and everything else. I actually went for the Street Fighter version because yeah, I'm a massive Street Fighter fan. Where you see a lot of products from China, this is something completely custom. Yep, Dragonfly made this. So this is actually 100% made in the Netherlands when it comes to the construction and everything else. So if you're going to be looking at the layout, this thing utilizes everything that we have with a normal arcade machine. Of course, this is one player configuration, but still everything is absolutely the same. So you can actually play everything at this point. So let's start off with the back over here. So what you're getting is an RJ45 connection because we can actually make an update with the software itself that we're going to be showing you later on. So this is the Dragonfly, the custom made sticker he made. And of course, like I mentioned, designed and built in the Netherlands. We're having the HDMI output, and then this one is pretty cool. You can just plug in your power cord, turn it on, and you're ready to go. But if you're going to be turning on, you can already hear something pretty cool on the inside, and I think that's one of the cool features this thing utilizes. He actually has this switchable 4 to 8 way restrictor, I'd love to call them, or the interchangeable octo gate. And I think that's one of the cool features if you're going to be playing some arcade games like Pac-Man. And let's do a quick look in the inside if you're going to be turning it on and off, so I can see what's going on over there. But I want to be clear about one thing. So what I understand is like I can open it up fairly easy, as you can see over here. But if you're going to be getting this device, it has been actually sealed off. But for purpose of review, I just wanted to do actually look in the inside. But let's do a quick overview and let's do a little bit of a semi-teardown. But you can actually see there's a lot going on inside of this machine. A lot of components are actually used to get this thing going on. Particularly when it comes to, let's say, the octogate, where this sounds really simple. You can see there's even a separate PCB that communicates with the software. It's going to be changing it out if you're going to be playing, for example, Pac-Man. So in here we're having the encoder board for the buttons over there. And then we're going to be having the trackball. And at the left bottom we're finding the spinner itself. And they're using the TS PSP02, the button style arcade spinner. And the feel itself, I think one of the most important elements is that it's just this thing has like a very nice spin. And he absolutely nailed it when it comes to that. At the bottom part we're finding all of the other components. In the middle we're finding all of the needed power supplies for the Raspberry Pi. And over here this one, I'm thinking this is going to be for the powered hub. And then of course a separate power supply. At the front we're finding the button for adjusting the brightness. But it's kind of genius, but so simple. And I was kind of surprised that he implemented this because this is one of the things you don't see with those Chinese products. And I think what this is really convenient, if you have like a very dark room, it's not like always like that, let's say convenient, or not like that's very nice. They have like these very bright LEDs. And we can just adjust it, such a simple thing and solution, but giving you an idea with a little bit of lighting going on. The overall look and the aesthetics of the LED function is absolutely great. But at the front we're finding 4 USB ports, and this is like super convenient. Because the one player Dragonfly game box utilizes the light gun, but also if you want to plug in different kind of controllers, this way we can just play together and you use this thing like actually game system itself. I must say that when it comes to the overall quality, this is something not comparable with those cheap Pandora's boxes from AliExpress. And everything about it is absolutely premium. To begin with, the decals they're using, or at least the stickers, they are like these very nice, special high quality ones that you don't need to be afraid that they're going to be damaging fairly easy, or if you're having like greasy fingers, that's going to be any problems at all. And I think that is one of the things you're going to be already noticing when you're actually getting one of these devices yourself. At the side you can see that they're not using your typical team holding. They're using completely different technology when it comes to the wood itself. But up close you can actually see what kind of wood it is, and like this black painted wood, very hard material, and makes it a very nice, supreme looking quality product. But one thing is for sure, if you're going to be making stuff like this with that kind of quality wood, it comes also with a hefty price. So one of the most important elements of an arcade stick is going to be having a nice quality arcade stick, and he absolutely did. But what is kind of interesting, he did went for a different configuration. Normally I have like a little bit of a longer overall joystick, but I can tell you playing with this is absolutely awesome. When you're going to be booting up Pac-Man, you can actually hear the octogate switching. And if you're going to be playing the game, this is going to be such an overall cool experience, because this is one of the things I really hated about those cheaper game boxes, where having like a circle or like an 8-way octogate, it was like these games were like so difficult to play. And now actually playing this is absolutely awesome, and now we can feel the corners, and this is just the way how you should play Pac-Man. It's just perfect. There we go. Power up. Come little ghosty. I'm very happy that he went for a good overall quality joystick, because now playing beat 'em ups is not going to be a nightmare at all. So another cool feature is if you want to make a quick load, you can very easily do that pressing select or the coin button with the third button over here. Or you're going to use a save to actually make a save by using the second button combined with a select. And I just made a save that I'm getting my ass completely beat up. However, one of the things is, and one of the surprising things is that actually playing with this joystick, short style joystick, I must say that I am really surprised how well this plays. And the high quality samba button is absolutely one of those experiences that brings this beat 'em up game to the next level. So the octogate is great for playing some old school Pac-Man. I think with the switchable octogate now we can actually play fighting games without any problem. And I think this is going to be one of the cool things why I'm going to be loving this device. Why do I always get my ass beat when I'm trying to frickin' say something? Nevertheless. However, if you're going to be playing some games, yeah, doing fighting moves is no problem whatsoever. But it also is for the button itself. I love it. I have seen a lot of buttons where I'm normally not the biggest fan of these long travel ones. They have like this amazing feedback. And playing fighting games, of course, we always need to get used to having like multiple different devices. But this is a very nice quality overall button. And the light up feature. Oh, look how bright this thing goes. It's freaking insane. And next up, we're going to be having a spinner. And I think a spinner is something you don't see very often on devices. Most of them are joystick and sometimes a trackball. But spinners have some really cool games. So if you're going to be looking into the software, in here we can find a spinner game section. And I think that's pretty cool, because in here we can just find every single game that can be played with a spinner itself. And what is kind of cool that I didn't even realize how many games can be played with a trackball. Of course, having all kinds of weird games like Quester, that is just some Arkanoid ripoff. You can see there are all kinds of cool games. So let's going on with this, and let's see how actually great it works. And is it even making the games more playable? Because some of the games are unplayable with a joystick, in my opinion, when it comes to that. And the spinner will give these games a so much better dimension than a joystick itself. So one of the things I'm really curious about, like this is a great example that why the joystick is no fun. And I think it has a lot to do with the configuration. Every single game is going to be perfectly, let's say, configured for the right sensitivity, because that's another thing I've noticed. This overall spin is absolutely great when it comes to the spinner itself. I think that's one of the interesting things when you're having a spinner. It needs to have the right amount of weight to get like this amazing spin. And this is overall a lot of fun actually to playing these games after many years. But let's move to the trackball itself. I've been playing a lot of different arcade machines, and the trackball is also the same story like with the joystick. Sometimes you find these, let's say, trackballs are not like a lot of fun. For me, when it comes to the resistance, I think there we're going to be having the biggest difference. So if you're going to be feeling the way how it rolls, but also the overall spin itself, it just needs to have the right resistance. And if you're going to be combining this with the right game and sensitivity, this is going to be a lot of fun with just a different way to play with the trackball itself. And yep, there is also a trackball list where there's all kinds of different kind of games. Not many of them, but I think there are going to be more than enough. You just want to play a bowling game. I've been playing a lot of different bowling games, but if you're going to be having a trackball, this is just going to be the best way to play them. Oh! Just one standing. Oh, that's unfortunate. I do wonder what's going on with the lining, like it's coming some weird screen tearing. But inside we're finding the Raspberry Pi number 5. And with the Raspberry Pi 5 we're going to be having so much overall better performance when it comes to retro gaming and emulation. But what can we actually do? That we're going to be finding out today. So throughout the video already didn't chit chat about certain subjects, but this thing can do so much more. And I think this thing has some really appealing, let's say, features that we didn't spoke about earlier. At the front we're having 4 USB connections and we can use them for a controller, and I think that is one of the cool features of this game stick. X input is one of those, let's say, supreme ways to play. However, if you want to have different kind of controllers, you can just easily plug them in and automatically everything has been configured. But if you don't want to use the arcade stick itself and you want to play certain games that just are so much better with an overall joystick configuration, we can just play them plug and play, and you can use up 4 multiple controllers, and this way we can just play games that are also utilizing 4-player split screen. But before we're going to be deep diving into what this thing can actually do when it comes to emulation performance, so let's talk about the options. Because in here we're going to be finding all kinds of quick disable and enable features. We can enable and disable the bezels if you want to, Bluetooth connections, we can even clean the game titles. I will not mess around too much with it, but what is interesting, you can here, let's just have the Dragonfly update, but also the kernel upgrade. So if you have any problems and they found this, you can just basically report them, and throughout the updates, this thing is going to be optimized and way better than before. And I think that is one of the cool features you didn't have before, where with a lot of products we had like problems, and it happens, but then we couldn't fix them at all. And now with the Dragonfly update, we can actually do that. But it brings me to the part of overall emulation performance, so let's deep dive into it to see how everything runs, because the Raspberry Pi 5 is actually capable of running a lot of different systems nowadays. So this is going to be a blast to the past, and it's going to be really interesting to see how far we can push it. But I just want to play some old school 8-bit games. This is not going to be a problem at all. Nowadays we have so many different ways to actually play these games, but it's absolutely a lot of fun and a great addition. What? So moving into the PC Engine and game system that I really started to just love. It's funny that I actually start playing this through emulation and later on bought the original systems too, because this is such a cool device. However, for example, you can just see that we have the bezels. They're kind of cool with some Jackie Chan on it. But let's reset it and let's see if we can disable this. Let's see what's going to be happening if you're going to be pressing disable. You just need to press this only one single time. Here we can just disable if you want to. Disable bezels. Alright. And as you can see that the bezel has been disabled, and I'm going to be honest that personally I like it this way. Where I don't really mind the bezels sometimes. Some I find them really annoying. But just give me like 2 black bars to get like the best aspect ratio. Let me know in the comments what do you think. But beside that, these things work absolutely great. So if you want to turn them back on, you can just easily press a button, get into the menu and just switch them back on. I've been playing a lot with the arcade stick itself, but if you just want to use joysticks, we can actually do that. In the option menu, we even have an extra section for this. Over here having the Gamebox joystick first. Already said that like you're going to automatically set the arcade stick to the player 1. But if you just want to play this thing as a game system, you can do that. Joystick selection order. I've been plugged in one controller, global joystick selection, and in here we can mess around with it. Already been tweaking. You can see like I want to have Xbox 360 as player 1, the Dragon Rise or the arcade stick as player 2. And this way it automatically sets to every single emulator, and we can actually use the joystick now, or the controller actually, for using as a main controller. And as you can see, we can actually use the joystick for player 2 and we can use the controller for player 1. And this way you can just fairly easy play together. So let's first start with some Panasonic 3DO. So this is a system that is quite difficult to emulate and many devices have tried, particularly those cheaper game boxes have problems. But now with the Raspberry Pi 5 we can actually play this without any weird shenanigans. I'm going to try to actually upscale it, because we can do a little bit of an upscaling there. But so far the emulation performance is absolutely quite good. And if you're going to be configuring the controller as player 1, we can just plug and play and just have some fun. So moving on to the Atari Jaguar, that's another system, and Recently I did a review about a similar product that also runs on the Pi, and you can see the same lining at the right, because the Atari Jaguar is quite difficult to overall emulate. But let's get into the gameplay itself. And I think when you're getting into the game, you can see still that very strange line at the right, but this is just a general problem with the Atari Jaguar. Let's see how we can actually start the game. There we go. Let's see if we can actually play this. Okay, one thing is for sure, Atari Jaguar is not running full speed. So this is something they should absolutely update. So we can hear like the stuttering sound. So I was kind of surprised actually that this had like a problem. And the other game device had the option to actually play this full speed. But again, Atari Jaguar isn't a very difficult one to actually emulate in general. But so far, let's see what's going on. So this is one of the things they should actually optimize later on with one of those updates. Ultra Vortex on the Atari Jaguar is, by the way, a game I have never seen before. So let's get into it and let's see what's going on. This is actually going to be running. Okay, this game looks pretty weird. Does look like another weird Mortal Kombat knockoff. What the heck? What is he doing? What is he doing? Oh, this looks like a rip-off Liu Kang. Battle 1. Oh man, this is going to be absolutely a weird game. Is this like, yep. Liu Kang meets Raiden or what? Is this normal that this gameplay so fast? What a weird game. Seriously. So let's get into some Demolish Fist. I just wanted to see what happens if you're going to be using the arcade stick itself. So Atomiswave is another system that was quite difficult to emulate on those simple chips, but now with the Pi 5 we do have overall great performance. Demolish Fist, what a weird game it is. So when it comes to beat 'em ups, I'm not the biggest fan of these particular kind of beat 'em ups. But emulation performance, nothing wrong going here. Reset. But if you want to play some cruise in the USA, we can actually do that on the N64. Yep, they managed to fix it. It just completely crashed into the guy. But the point is that we're getting overall great performance now. So I think they're still running on native resolution, but that's not a problem at all for me. But at this point, it's great to see that the Pi 5 have managed to get yourself like the N64, that part actually working with some cruise in the USA. So let's move into some golden eye, or it's going to be golden glitching, because yeah, there were some glitches going on. Alright, still the paperclip is not there. I do wonder if you can finally easily fix that, but let's get into some gaming and let's see how that actually looks. So gameplay wise, this has this has been improved so much compared with the previous Pi. Still, this is a very difficult game to emulate. So let's see what's going on with the Sega systems. First of all, trying some more demanding games. But I think we've reached the point that we can just play all kinds of Sega Dreamcast, Mame or Atomiswave systems. And we did see some really cool things go on when it comes to the arcade too. And we're going to be reaching in very soon. But so far, no slowdowns. This runs really nice. Die Hard Arcade is one of those games that I never experienced back in the day, simply because I didn't have a Sega Saturn. Nope, I didn't have that. I was a PlayStation gamer. So I did play a lot of Die Hard Trilogy, but the overall emulation is becoming so much more stable and better. The same with this particular Pi that's in the inside. It runs pretty smooth. You can see there's no stuttering, weird thing. Also having audio and everything is working quite well. What's this? Could I grab this or something? Oh yeah. Slap her with the groom. Is this seriously like just having a gun? What the heck? No, go down. But when it comes to Sega Saturn, it doesn't really matter what we're going to be throwing at it, because in the end, it seems to be everything runs just great on native resolution over here. I love that blow off sound. The blow off valve of the turbo. Zombie Revenge is an interesting game. This is what I loved about the Sega Dreamcast with these very interesting semi-arcade games. Well, I did play this a couple of times on those, let's say, simple game boxes from China. This is so much more enjoyable if you're going to be playing this on more power device. Oh yeah! I always have this idea, even have like a machine gun or shotgun, that the handgun is the most powerful one of all of the freaking guns. Hasta la vista, baby. Next up, one of my favorite Sonic games of the Dreamcast, Sonic Adventure 2. Going back in the time with some Sega CD. For me personally, while I love the modern game systems, I still prefer to play these old school games. Always when I'm playing on my Sega CD, I love to play some Final Fight CD. And of course we have many other cool games like Snatcher. But like I mentioned before, these games run without any problem whatsoever. So moving into the GameCube emulation, the overall emulation, it's going to be okay. However, we're going to be testing out a couple of games, but we're going to be using an actual controller where we can maybe utilize the game box itself. I think it's not going to be super convenient for playing every single game. So throughout the video, I'm just going to be using the controller, particularly when it comes to these kind of emulators. But it makes me wonder, so let's do a little bit of deep dive into the Crash Bandicoot Racing. And yeah, this is going to be a hit or miss. That is a fact, because the previous game had like a lot of emulation issues, but so far this seems to be working fine. We're going to be needing to play this with the controller. And yeah, we can actually try to play this with the joystick itself. I'd really not recommend doing this. But again, hook up on multiple controllers and you're ready to go. So let's go in with some 1080. I was really curious how that was going to be running. I did notice some minor hiccups. Let's see if we're going to be seeing that more and more in the gameplay itself. Oh yeah, there we go. Graphical wise, this game looks really nice. That's an interesting overall game mechanic, something I've never seen before. But what is even more exciting with the overall, let's say, performance boost, now we can actually play some freaking Killer Instinct on the arcade part. And this one's pretty good. Oh yeah. But also, if we're going to be moving into part 2, here we don't have any issues when it comes to performance. I still remember that I actually played this game for the first time on the Xbox Classic, but now we can actually play this freaking game on a real arcade. And I think this is such a cool overall experience, but I'm getting my ass kicked big time. There we go, come on. Ugh. So arcade, we don't have any restrictions here so far, I understand. It's kind of cool that we finally have a box that can actually play all the other games that we couldn't play before. How many freaking times I've been complaining about that Killer Instinct doesn't run, but it does actually run now. And I think that is such a cool and overall improvement. No, this game is brutal. I play this so much on the NES version. Oh man! Ah, there we go. Oh, still in the face! Come on, there we go. For the people wondering, I'm still playing with the controller. Come on, there we go. And I thought I was like the NES part was absolutely brutal. Is there a final boss? One hit kill. PlayStation 1 is a system that is not a special for emulation anymore because we can see that, or actually we can see this on so many game boxes. However, they did manage to not mess up the audio part because that is one of the things I really hate when they're doing that. Besides that, the overall emulation seems to be working quite well, and yeah. The only thing I always love to do with these games is I upscale them to high resolution and just play it on my old school CRT. That music is amazing. Get down with the body, everywhere will be. Woo, there we go, drifting boys. Yeah. But let's get into some Wipeout, and I can tell that overall PlayStation Portable Emulation have been trying out a couple of games. The more demanding ones like the God of War did notice that they're going to be needing some optimization, but when you're going to be getting into the cool games I love to play like an Wipeout. Wow, what just happened? That seems to be working quite well. I cannot really find out what kind of resolution they're running it on, but I'm guessing it's going to be, or looking at it, that's going to be native resolution. Holy crap, I'm getting my ass kicked over here, but yeah, this seems to be working fine. Smooth overall emulation performance. I think this can be even a game that you can play maybe with the stick itself. Well, let's move into some other games like Teardown Fight for New York. But the unfortunate part is it does run a little bit slowly. Okay. But let's move on to another feature I was really excited about, is using light guns on the Dragonfly Gamebox Arcade. So the machine has been preset with the Synth and light guns. We do have the recoil version over here. So what you need to do is just plug it in, and I'm going to be showing you that you can also configure this, because inside of the machine we have all kinds of very cool settings that can easily adjust your Synth and light gun when it comes to recoil force and other things. So what you can see over here, we do have auto recoil, coin start buttons, the core share can be shut off or turned on, and we can even adjust the recoil strength. I think this is one of those features that can be very beneficial for having an overall, let's say, good gaming experience. So there are quite a lot of different, let's say, settings for the recoil itself. So let's say if you pick up the recoil ones but you don't want to use it at all, you can just fairly easily press a button and it will automatically shut this off. It will take some time, as you can see over there. So we're having normal, high, low and maximum. Maximum is my personal favorite because we're going to be having the real nice feedback that I just love with these things. So auto recoil is one of the things you can just actually like turn on and off over here. So coin start button, you can mess around with that if you want to switch it out. The core share, you can enable or disable this. Gives a little bit of more overall, let's say, arcade vibe. Personally, if you're going to be disabling this. And of course the PlayStation or PS1, PlayStation 2 state, where we can also enable and disable this. So they thought about so far, I think, everything. So let's take a close look at the light gun series. What can we actually do? So you're going to see number 1 and number 2, we can actually do the auto recoil on and off if you just want to do it from here. So when it comes to the list itself, this comes with all kinds of different, let's say, variation of arcade PlayStation, Atomiswave, and some really cool old school classic ones. There's no Techno Parrot because we're going to be needing a powerful PC for that, but there's still lots of different cool games that we can actually play. So let's try a couple of them. So one of the things you need to take consideration when it comes to playing with the Synth and light gun for people who have never seen it before. So they're using actually a camera inside of this, and you're going to be pointing at the screen. I did notice I had a little bit of trouble when it comes to the overall, let's say, using it, and it has nothing to do with the software itself. No, this has to do because you do need to have not too much lighting. If you're going to be shutting down the lighting itself, you can see how great it actually works. I just wanted to point out, so if you're going, you don't need to really have a pitch dark overall lighting situation. So let's say we're going to be giving a little bit of lighting in this darkened room. It's going to be great when it comes to that. For example, now we're going to be having some similar to daylight. You can see that we can use this just without any problem whatsoever. So the overall configuration of playing with the light gun is going to be absolutely great. So of course it's a little bit of a personal preference what kind of system you want to use. We have so many different kind of say light gun situations. But I think the Saturn isn't a very convenient one because you don't need any external sensors. And I understand that's the reason why they actually went for this particular one. So let's try some Ninja Assault of the Atomiswave. One of the things I'm really curious about is like, how will this actually play? Okay, we can put in credit over here with the side button. Reload is with the shotgun thing at the bottom, so that's great. I also did put the recoil on high, not on the maximum, because I was way too crazy. But yeah, we've seen already some emulation performance of Atomiswave and Dreamcast. That's not going to be a problem whatsoever. We didn't enable the cheaty Corsair. I already messed it up. That was quick. And the side buttons can be used for getting into the game, for if you're going to be having enabling the freaking start. But beside that, everything seems to be working fine. I must say that this is overall a fun experience. One of my favorite games to play, House of the Dead. Bring it on. Who gonna really do this? Because he's a zombie! That's how. He becomes a zombie! Time for some PlayStation 1 gaming, and I did manage to find this really cool, interesting game. Sometimes you find these very cool shooters, you would never know they were existing. I love the reloading of the shotgun situation. But this isn't a very fun game to actually play. Maze of the King is one of those very cool games I always just to check out. So when it comes to this particular game, I must say that I did see it and played it on many different games systems before, but this is absolutely one of those hidden gems, so let's have some fun with this. Also the reload has been configured like it should be supposed to be. I think it is still one of my favorite features of the Saturn light gun. Let's move into some Time Crisis. But the configuration, what they actually did, is kind of interesting. And what do I mean? So if you're going to be reloading, we're going to be still needing to press the button over here. I don't know if that was the idea. But editing wicked here. I did spoke with Dragonfly, and it seems to be there is something going on with my light guns, because yeah, the coin button is not normally, you need to pull the lever back of the shotgun, let's put it that way, and that's going to be reloading. But somehow something went wrong when I'm plugging in my light guns. Virtua Cop, another absolutely awesome classic game. So let's activate the light gun. What I need to do with my machine is actually holding the coin button for a couple of seconds, then it will activate the system itself. You can see it seems to be working perfectly. The big chase, oh yeah, with the Sega Saturn emulator. Let's go.
Let's go.
The question is how to reload. Yep, shotgun is actually for reloading. Itchy nose. You take a break. That can be done fairly easy by pressing the button at the left over here. I love it that yes, we're going to be using the left. Nope, don't shoot the guy. But it's absolutely awesome that the Raspberry Pi is able to run Sega Saturn, Dreamcast and Mame, because this way we can just actually play all of these cool light gun games. Oh, that was cheesy. So when it comes for this plug and play solution, yeah, I already mentioned before is that we can actually do an update, and that's what we're going to be doing also today. So let's see how this part works. Connected to the RG45 connection. So it says like internet is available, ready to update. Press any key to continue, and it's automatically updating. So just leave it as it is, and let's come back to it and see what he actually updated and what has been upgraded and configured. After the update, I had some very cool extras over here. So they enabled the PlayStation 2 emulation. Yep, we can actually play PlayStation 2 on this. So let's see what's going on. Let's do a little bit of an overview of a couple of games, and also let's hook up the controller. So let's see what's going on with playing some PlayStation 2 on here. So it seems to be that we do have a little bit of dipping going on. I see like 49, let's say 50 frames per second. So it's actually to a certain point just playable. What the heck? It's interesting to see that how it actually runs on the Raspberry Pi 5. Also the rumble motor seems to be working fine in the controller. But now we're going to be hitting 44 frames per second at this point. But let's move into some Tony Hawk, and you know, when it comes to PlayStation 2, you can actually see that it is pushing this thing to the limit, but it is pretty cool. We can just play some old school Tony Hawk 3 without any problem whatsoever. So there are a lot of games that are absolutely playable, full frames, 60 frames per second. And the PlayStation 2 is, in my opinion, an absolutely amazing addition to the Dragonfly game box. Let's go for the combo. Oh, messed that part up. But let's try some old school Wipeout. Man, I love this game. Let's see how far we can push it and what can he actually do. So at this moment we're hitting 50 frames. We have some flickering going on. But this is just playing on latest resolution. This is absolutely a great overall, let's say, playable situation. So I do have the idea that this game is just running on 50 frames because this is actually just a ball game. I was thinking, how can I actually freaking use the power-ups? Rumble function and the rumble motor goes crazy. But yep, so far everything, this is just a very cool playable. Ooh, got some dip there. Ooh, but it happens with the PSP emulator too sometimes when you're getting a lot of stuff going on. But again, I think this is going to be a lot of optimization going on in the future. But let's move to something else. Gradius. Oh man, I love this game series. However, the two-dimensional games are kind of more, let's say, overall better to emulate. Particularly when I'm going to be pushing some device to its limit, and this is a great example. You can see this runs on full 60 frames per second, like with Tony Hawk. So, you know, I love this kind of game box. You can actually play PlayStation simulation, and I'm really curious how this will actually go into the future. Because I think this can be very interesting to see how good the overall emulation performance is going to be. Come on, I need to have all the power-ups. Laser, yeah! Supazones Saleza! Speed up. These are the games you can also play perfectly with an arcade stick. Oh yeah, come on. Last time I completely got destroyed by this guy. Oh, this game is so freaking brutal. I do have some bad memories of the first one on the NES. By pressing select start will give you even an option to make a quick load, quick save, and it's kind of cool. If you're going to be pressing close, here you can make an exit and a save state. And there we go. So we're just playing some shmups, so let's go with Raiden 3. Another awesome title that I do know from the arcades. Bullet hell, man. I love these crazy games. So let's get into the PlayStation 2 version today and see how it runs. So far, full speed, 50 frames. That is actually set to the PAL 50. And another two-dimensional game that can play without any problem whatsoever. But if you're going to be searching for an affordable but premium way to play, the Dragonfly Gamebox Arcade can be a very cool thing, because this thing can do it all. Spinners, trackball, normal joystick, arcade, controller, you name it, this thing has it all. A very cool solution, but you know, it's something that can replace your full arcade cabinet and doesn't take up a lot of room. Thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think, and it would be great to see you in the next video.